Welcome back, guys. It's been a hot minute. It's me, Colin, with the Sun Pirates CCG, joined today by my co-host, Mohammed.
How's it going, everybody? It's been a while.
And this is our next episode of the It Connects podcast. I don't even remember what episode we're on. That's how long we've...
I want to say 8,
this.
but I could be wrong. I could just be pulling that number out my ass.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, so... as you could probably tell, we've been quite busy the past few months between just like preparing for nationals. At least Trevor and Mohammed were, to an extent, as well as just like other general life stuff. Obviously, you know, we've had the holiday season and whatnot. So today we're going to talk about our experience in the Bandai Card Fest, as well as some upcoming stuff that we are excited for, particularly with the Gundam Card Game that, as you may have saw, we started doing content on. So
oh yeah, pretty excited for that one, but we'll get to that in a minute. So like Colin said, it has been a bit since Bandai Card Fest Orlando concluded. Trevor and I were qualified for the main event. Based on the results of Bandai Card Fest, you guys are aware that we did not particularly succeed while we were there. But
we were not Sun Pirates that weekend. We were Scrub Pirates.
Yeah.
I kind of crashed and burned at the LCQ. It is what it is. Arvind was focused on the Union Arena main event. I don't think he did particularly well either. Sorry, Arvind.
Yeah, I don't think he started off strong at least, but he didn't top 8 as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, so nobody did great as far as the glory goes, but it was like a really great time at
It was
Card
very
Fest.
fun.
Much better than the one in Dallas.
100% agree. There was a lot more
Yeah.
What's the word? It's like development. I don't think that's the word.
More pizzazz
Yeah.
around the convention center.
Exactly. There was like more stuff to look at, more stuff to do. The stage was much nicer. The side events were handled, in my opinion at least, the side events were handled much better than they were in Dallas. For the most part.
Yeah, the One Piece ones, again, not their fault, were a little bit understaffed. Like the big one I did on Saturday, like started practically like an hour late, and then every round took basically a whole hour. When again, it's supposed to be like 35-minute rounds, like any other tournament.
Right.
Which again, it is what it is. You know, like the staff there were doing what they could because, like, honestly, it was a little bit understaffed for what it should have been. No one's fault really, aside from maybe the upper leadership. But yeah, again, it was still a very, very fun experience. You know, we met a lot of really cool people. The attractions were great. The booths, like the Digimon booth, the main One Piece booth,
The Gundam base.
Yes, the Gundam base. That was actually like a really cool surprise. Going in there, getting to get some exclusive model kits. Like both Mohammed and I and Arvin are actually pretty avid builders. If we're gonna, maybe we'll show some on the channel sometime.
Yeah, maybe we'll montage a build party that we have coming up later. But overall the event was very nice. It was a much higher production than some of the previous ones. It was very reminiscent to the original Nationals back in California. The stream was very nice. As fans of One Piece, I kind of wish that, or like as fans of like the Bandai games and their individuality, I kind of wish that they separated the streams instead of just having one stream that jumped between the games. That was a little weird. But they at least made sure to like put all the finals on the big stage, and they had commentators going at it, so that was all very nice. So
Yeah, absolutely. And then for probably, honestly, I thought like the main Bandai games like Digimon and particularly One Piece would be the main attraction to Card Fest, but actually I think the game that stole the show for that whole weekend was the new and upcoming Gundam Card Game. Now, I'm sure some of you have probably seen a lot of the streams and the big productions they've had to advertise the game. Even at Card Fest, they've had a bunch of guests there, like Team APS featuring the like demoing the game Pro CD, which is a
Also a big
very
fan of Gundam.
very welcome surprise. Yeah, and even aside from that, I don't know if he was there particularly for Gundam, but I Show Speed. I think he's probably more there for One Piece.
Yeah, they had him on stream for One Piece, so but that was cool seeing
Yeah.
him there. He was just like
Yeah, that was
chilling,
really cool.
having a good time. So
Yeah, then we got to like meet the creator of the lead designer of the Gundam Card Game.
they had they had a lot of the lead designers there. We met the
Yeah.
creator of the One Piece card game. He was doing a signing, funny enough. We met the creator of the Gundam card game. He was also doing a signing. The creator of Union Arena was also there as well, I believe. So
Yeah, and then of course, the big elephant in the room was the beta events that were being run, both Saturday and Sunday. We were very, very fortunate to get in on the Sunday pods
Right.
through their lottery system. Very, very thankful for that. I wish they would have allowed for more. Not just for like us to have like gone in multiple times, but also just in general for like other people to have gone in, because we've had plenty of homies that just like could not get in
Oh, yeah.
whatsoever.
because you got to apply to, they did it by a block system. So the way the Bandai app works is you can apply to events that are 2 hours apart. So they had like a 12 p.m. and a 1 p.m. block for like 2 events, and then they had a 2 p.m. and a 3 p.m. block. So you could apply to like 1 event from each block. So you could technically apply to 2 to double your chances. And fortunately, each of us made it into 1 of the blocks. But there were a number of our friends that did not make it into like any of the blocks. So
Yeah. So with that being said, let's actually talk about our demos. So we got our beta kits. They do slash open the seal.
Yes.
So
so
they couldn't
that's
be,
something
like,
I'm actually
scalped.
I was going to talk about, and I hope that a lot of stores do it for the beta events that are being held in stores. When they sit you down for this beta event, they do not let you touch the kit. They will come by, take the kit out of the tote bag that they have it in, because you get a nice little tote bag for doing the event at Cardfest, and they slash it open. They remove the wrapping, so it you can't even say this was slashed at Cardfest. The wrapping's just gone, so you have like no proof that it was like sealed in the first place. And then while you're seated, after they explain to you how all the mechanics work, they require you to open your packs in front of them before you can leave. So like there was no way for you to walk out with any of it sealed.
Hey, like again in my other like vlog videos, you'll see like the stuff that comes in, and like the little dice, the sleeves that came with it, the EX Gundam base promo
For playing
that they
the
give you
event,
with
yeah.
the survey. Yeah, it's really, really, really cool. Yeah, and then like I went in with my friend Lloyd. You've probably seen him in a couple other videos before. And during the demo, yeah, they do this like little tutorial on like how to play, how the cards are designed, etc., etc. And they have you build a deck and then just like play with the person in front of you, which I thought was a really cool experience. We got to see what the cards did for the very first time. We're gonna like get more into like what we think about the mechanics of the game in a sec here. At this point, I would highly recommend you check out our tutorial video on how to play the Gundam card game, or if not our video, there's also other tutorial videos by other content creators, even the main channel, albeit in Japanese language but with subtitles.
Right. So I will say this. Take these opinions, or at least take my opinions, with a grain of salt, because I understand that there's only like 51 or 52 cards in the whole beta, so like it's hard to make a like fully fleshed out deduction without like knowing more. Like we don't even have all the starter decks, let alone all the cards for the starter decks that were
Not
included.
even all the colors.
Yeah, not even all the colors. There's a whole color that wasn't included, which is red, which is in the 3rd starter deck, as well as will still be included in set 1. But for the most part, I like the mechanics of the game. I guess my biggest gripe, I'll start with my gripes. First, draw power feels very lacking for the most part. There's only 2 draw spells currently, and like some color, like you feel forced to include one of the 2 colors for their draw spell, no matter what deck you play. So it's like
Right. And again, we have to see what red brings.
exactly.
But like the draw spells we're generally referring to are Overflowing Affection in white and what was the blue
Show
one?
of Resolve.
Show of Resolve
Yeah.
in blue. So like Overflowing Affection is like draw 2, ditch 1, and then Show of Resolve is just a straight up divination.
Yeah,
Pot of Greed.
just a draw 2.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
I will say I do like the level mechanic. I think it's a very nice way to balance time gating cards without like making them cost a lot, because that's always an issue with these games where you want to play like top end because it's cool and it's fun to play it, but cheating your way to it isn't always healthy. I like the pilot mechanic, and I like the linked versus paired, the difference between a linked pair and just a paired unit. I kind of wish that the life system was much more One Piece adjacent than Digimon adjacent. It's much closer to Digimon, where you flip over your damage, and if it has a burst, that's the equivalent of a trigger. You do whatever it says mandatorily, and if it does not have a burst, it just goes to your discard. There's no like comparing power or anything with the cards that you check out of your life area. In my opinion, it makes it so that when you're playing these Gundams that require a pilot, currently all of the major pilots have burst go to your hand, but none of the Gundams do. So it's like, if all of your wing Gundams are in your life, you just like, your deck doesn't function right.
Yeah, that's my issue too. Is like kind of similar to Digimon, where every time you take a damage, like, because it's a life decking like every other Bandai game, and
Most
other Bandai games, and that's like 6 cards, because it's 6 cards in your life that you start with that potentially you'll just like never have access to, because they go straight to your discard. So like, you know, it's one of those things that feels bad when you're trying to draw into like your boss monster, like your cool super shiny Strike Gundam, and then your opponent hits you, and then you see it out of your life. You're like, oh.
It's like, because like the other thing is, like, I can understand that it will be a very rare occurrence for all 4 copies of your boss monster to be in your life. But again, because draw power isn't really currently very existent, you don't go through your deck very quickly. You only draw 1 card a turn, and there aren't any Gundam like units that have draw effects currently. So it's quite literally just Overflowing Affection and Show of Resolve.
Yeah.
They're the only ways to get deeper into your deck.
There are a couple of mobile suits that do have.
I believe there's
draw
one
effect,
that's
like the Unicorn.
Yeah, the
does,
Unicorn has on pair you draw a card
but it has to be on pair specifically with
with the correct pilot with
Banner
Bannister
Trigger.
links.
And then, oh sorry, that was the on death. There was also an RX-78 that, if it's paired with any white base team, it just draws
you're
a card.
correct. So that,
but again, it's like a very specific thing that
it's
you
like,
have to do to draw the
because
card.
that's another thing. It's pairing characters is very resource intensive, because
Yeah.
there
So
are
those
great
2
benefits
cards.
to it.
Yeah.
So like normally, nothing in the game currently has the rush or haste keyword. However, if you pair the appropriate pilot, like the archetypal pilot listed at the bottom of the Gundam, whether that's their iconic pilot or
Like the guy in the show.
yeah, like the guy in the show, whether it's the right pilot or the right like archetype, not only do they apply their stats, but they become a link unit instead of just a paired unit, and they also gain haste or rush, whichever game you're playing. But again, that takes 2 cards. It takes the pilot out of your, or it takes the Gundam out of your hand, and the proper pilot, because, and specifically because it has to be the proper pilot. You can pair any pilot with a unit to give it the stat boost, but if it's not the right pilot, they don't gain haste. So it's like, you have to balance playing like these correct pilots to these correct like boss monster or like mid-game Gundams to like gain the benefit of like their bonus effects and having haste, but you exhaust resources so quickly that sometimes it's like not even worth doing since the draw power is like so lacking currently. And again, I understand there's only 50 cards in the beta. Like their set 1 has like 140, and that includes none of the starter deck cards, which make up, I believe, like at least 20 of the cards in the beta. So it's like,
right. And it's one of those things too, is like you want a lot of draw power in the sense that like there are games where you will need to see every single type of card in your deck. Like you need a sufficient number of bodies, like mobile suits, to play out, right? And then you want the appropriate pilots, and then you want at least some amount of bases to keep yourself alive. And then on top of that, command cards like your spells. You want to find
or your
like,
events in
utility
One
spells
Piece.
like a removal. Yeah, like your events in One Piece. Right. So, and like even more so than One Piece, you want to find basically every type of card in the game throughout the course of a game.
Like currently with the amount of information we have from the beta, it feels like the strategies you can explore are very limited. And again, it's a beta, I get that. But like a like low to the ground like Rookie Rush style aggro deck isn't very viable currently because there aren't very many resources that you can dedicate to it or like ways to gas back up or flood the board very quickly. Whereas like Rush, like an aggro Zoro deck has been viable for like not exactly like meta, but it's been viable for like a long part of the One Piece card game's history.
Yeah, well, even today, I mean,
Like
Zoro's still like a fine deck,
right?
Like a low to the ground Zoro
exactly.
deck. It's still fine. Digimon 2 is like the Rookie Rush archetype, you know, was good for quite a long time until, you know, for like
Stuff
I
gets
would say,
out of
like, the
hand.
first few sets. Yeah, I would say for the first like few sets of Digimon's existence, you know,
Like
there was
even
always,
currently,
like,
there are
good
still like low to the
strategy
ground
like that.
aggro decks that are viable in Digimon. They're no longer Rookie Rush, but like the style
more
of
like a
like
roundabout.
heavy early aggression still exists.
Yeah,
But like currently in the game, that's not very viable with the resources we have. And there's like another question where we don't know if some units are exclusive to their color or if they're available to all the colors. For example, there's a level 2 1 cost Zaku that has 1 attack and 2 HP, but it has on attack gain 2 attack for the turn. So it's on attack it's a 3/2, but like defensively it's a 1/2. And it's currently in green. But if every color has that, it'll likely be a staple in like every color. But if it's exclusive to green, that's like a benefit to playing green. So we just don't know yet.
Mm-hmm. But green also doesn't really have any great draw spells,
right?
So that's kind of the trade-off. Which I that's cool. I actually think that's cool. And
like the big thing is like every color has like a theme to it as per typical Bandai. Green is like a ramp color. We don't really know anything about red beyond what they've said that they have ways of dealing damage to characters since it wasn't in the beta. Blue is like the like advantage engine color.
Yeah, like the value color.
White is supposed to be like the board interaction color and like like command / event based cards. And it's like green has a lot of top end because the Wing Gundam is a level 6, and if you don't use any of the events that give you extra resources to like get you there faster, it will just take you 6 turns before you can start dropping like the main cards in your deck. But at the same time, if you're playing cards to accelerate your resources and this boss monster and your pilot for your boss monster, you're just losing so many cards that you just like will gas out very, very quickly. Like seen in the game that Colin and I demoed the game on the channel. Like I got to ramp and get to the Wing Gundam, but after I did it, I just kind of like ran out of resources and couldn't close out the game.
Yeah. With that being said, though, let's talk about what we like about the game. Because honestly, it's like, I think the things that I like pretty heavily outweigh
I agree.
The cons that we've talked about so far. So let's actually talk about the positives. First of all, like Muhammad already kind of alluded to earlier, is that I really, really like the level system. The idea that like you can't play a card until a certain turn or a certain stage of your resources, but that card does not tap you out for your entire turn. So like, for example, like one of the wing Gundams is like a level 5 vanilla, but it only actually costs 3 to play it. So it's like you can't play it until your turn 4 or 5, but it only costs 3 out of your 5 resources for that turn. So you still have more resources to do other things in that turn.
Right. Whether it's like leaving up event/command cards, or like pairing pilots, or like playing a base or something, like you get options, which is nice. I will also say that I am a very big fan of the going second mechanic in the game, which is the EX resource. So an resources are the equivalent of Dawn in the game. You get one at the start of every turn, including the first turn of the game, whether you go first or second. However, if you go second, you also draw a card when you start your turn, whether or not you go first or second. So your starting hand is 5, and both players will draw for their first turn to go to 6. But going second, you get an EX resource. It's a token resource similar to an energy marker for Dragon Ball. And it just starts in your resource area. The biggest thing about it, though, is while it's there, it counts towards your level. So while the player that goes first technically has as many cards as the player goes second will, and they take the first action of the game, they are at level 1 while player 2 starts the game at level 2 instead. So they can start dropping those like higher tier threats sooner, which is very interesting, and it's like a very cool way of balancing it out, since currently nothing has the rush mechanic.
I will say, at first I thought going second would be pretty broken because of that EX resource, but like so far with the games we've played, I feel
think
like
it's
it hasn't
close.
really been the case. Yeah, like because it's not like Dragon Ball. So like, if for those of you that played Fusion World, like you might remember in like within the first couple of sets, going second was pretty broken. Between having your energy marker,
Having
drawing,
the draw and the first attack.
and the first swing, which also typically draws you a card. It was like you just got so much more for going second in that game. But so I thought that it would be something kind of similar in Gundam, because that EX resource just sounds very, very powerful on paper, which it is. But honestly, it's like going first, and again, you know, we're in the beta, only 50 something cards, but I didn't feel like going first was like that bad, or even like bad at all. I felt like both players had like a really solid fighting chance.
Again, with it being the
games.
beta, it's hard to make a call on like how strong going first or second is without a full card pool. But from the limited card pool that we do have, and like the number of games we've played, it feels very close. Because because you're the player that goes first, you're not down a card, since you still draw while you're the player that goes second also draws. You still draw the same number of cards. And you also, because you're the first player that gets to get on the board, you're also the first player that gets to start hitting or like contesting. So it's like you gain the advantage of like, because you're first on the table, you're the first one to like start pressing advantage, right? So it's like, it's really hard to make a call whether or not going like the extra level is worth being technically like the second to take a move. But it currently it feels like fairly even, which is very nice. I'm very, very happy with what they've done to use as a, at least for the beta, what they've done to like balance out the first and second, like the deficit for going second.
Yeah.
I will also say, this is a personal thing, I think the cards look very beautiful.
Absolutely, yeah.
As many fans of the channel are aware, whenever you see me guys playing decks, I love texturing on my trading cards. And man, oh man, the SR equivalent, the legend rares or LRs in this game just look absolutely stunning. They're incredibly textured. Like, frankly, not me, Lloyd, and Colin, none of us got any alternate arts from our beta because you're not guaranteed any of them, but when you're cracking it and you see your LR, you're like, is this an alternate art? Because it's just like as textured as like some of the One Piece like SPs, honestly. Like they look very nice.
Yeah, it's very similar to like the XRs and Battle Spirits, which again are like the equivalent of SRs in One Piece and Digimon, where they're just naturally textured, and they look really good. SRs in Fusion World were also textured, right? To my memory. Or were they not?
Yes, they were. So
Like
Fusion World did have texturing. I'm not a huge fan of the texturing on Fusion World cards. I'm gonna be honest. I think it looks very like lazily done. It's kind of just like the beam effects, and the characters are very flat. I don't actually have my cards in my hands right now, so I can't show you guys. But maybe we'll include a clip of it later, or you'll see them in the video when you watch our tutorial guide on playing the game. But like, there is very like clear, like distinct, like it's almost like it as people that build the Gundam kits. It's very reminiscent of like the process of building a kit, because they took like all the detail of like lining the like various crevices in the Gundam and like making it pop, and it honestly looks very, very nice. I'm a huge fan of it. I didn't get to see an alternate art in person, but looking at the images I've seen online, they look very stunning. I really hope they're not exclusive to the beta, because I'd like to get some of them for not their current price point. But we'll just have to wait and see, honestly.
Yeah, like, I remember at Cardfest, it's like the guy sitting right next to me pulled an alternatural resolve, and that looked crazy. And then, like, someone next to you pulled the EX resource, or excuse me, the normal resources, but in the platinum looking.
Yeah, so that's, we don't know ratios on the set. So it's very hard to speak. We can only talk about what we've heard from. We can only talk about what we've heard from the judges that were there running the events all weekend long. But from what I heard, roughly 1 in 100 kits had their 20 normal resources, because the kit comes with 20 resources, so you could build 2 decks to play with someone. Replaced with like metallic style like foil texture resources, which look very nice. And then I believe alternate arts were 1 in 5 or 6 kits, if I remember correctly, maybe 4.
It's like, imagine like the Golden Dawn in One Piece, like the PRB Golden Dawn, like it's like that level of like shininess and texturing. They look really, really impressive. And you get 20 of them if you're lucky enough to get one of those beta kits that have those rare dawn or those rare resources.
Right.
They look crazy.
They look great, and again, because the resources cap at 10, you just have like 2 full sets of them. You can either like give some to a buddy, sell a set online.
Sell a set for like $1 million.
Currently, the sets, like a set of 10 is second-handing for upwards of like 5 or 6 at the time of recording.
$600. That's so crazy.
So like, if you sell the 20, you get like 1,200. Obviously, I'm not gonna get into the numbers. Stuff is going to change likely, especially with like the release of the kits from Bandai themselves. Like, while the kits did sell out on Premium Bandai, we technically don't know how many sold. We just know that it sold out.
I would recommend, guys, if you're trying to buy some stuff secondhand for the beta, just give it like a few weeks when, when stores are running their beta trial events. Also, when people are getting in their Premium Bandai.
Yeah, beta kits are being shipped from Bandai supposedly in February, so just wait a few weeks till the end of February, and then that's when I'd probably start looking if you want anything specific. Also, honestly, as far as we're aware, the biggest difference between the stuff from the beta and the stuff not in the beta is that in the top corner where they have the card number for the set and its rarity, there's a beta B. So it's like we don't know how exclusive the alt arts are. We don't know if they're exclusive to the beta or not. But if all you want are the cards, I would personally recommend waiting until the full release, unless you really like the letter B. But
yeah, and we'll have to see what happens with the alt arts supposedly. And again, like, I could be misinterpreting the advertisement, but supposedly the alternate arts from the beta are exclusive artworks to that product and not in the main set. Which I'm not sure what that entails necessarily, if those artworks may never be seen again outside of the beta, or if they might be re-released in some kind of supplementary product without the little beta symbol in the top right corner, obviously. But just do be wary of that, I suppose.
Right. I will say, for at least starter decks, they have announced that there's supposed to be a bonus pack in the starter deck, similar to what's in the Ultra decks in One Piece that have like alternate art or like full art versions of the cards. Again, this is all like tentative information. Nothing is like out yet.
It's all speculation at this point, really.
It's just like information that we have from distributor pages that everyone has access to online. So it's be mindful of what you're spending. That's going to be my tip currently. I guess that's a gripe that I have with the beta, is like people are going bonkers. Mm-hmm. People are selling their like open beta kits from like Cardfest for like $350, and it's like, dude, it's an open kit. Like, calm down. There's going to be more.
Yeah, like, and that's kind of like going into the next point I want to talk about. The hype surrounding this game is so much higher than I would have ever given it credit for. If you told me a year and a half ago, or even 2 years ago, that Bandai is creating a Gundam card game, like, and the hype like surrounding the beta kits and surrounding people wanting to pre-order the products, I would not believe you. Because it's one of those things where One Piece made sense as far as how much it exploded. It's like, did we expect it to explode as high as it did?
Yes.
When it first came out? I don't know. A lot of people didn't. But
it's a
like,
tough call to make.
In hindsight, it makes sense.
Like, the thing
in
is,
hindsight, it makes sense because of how One Piece is as an IP. But for Gundam, it's like, albeit it's a very popular IP, but I would not put it at the same level as One Piece. Now, I will say, the people that like Gundam
really
love Gundam.
Yeah.
They really love Gundam. So the market is there, but I just was not expecting the product to be as
in demand.
I was not expecting people to be as enthusiastic about the product as they currently are.
It's like so crazy.
I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised.
I'm also very pleasantly surprised. I'm very happy that there's demand. I've had people coming in from like other card games and even from like Gundam as a hobby, just coming to me. They're like, "Hey, I know you play card games. What do you know about this Gundam card game they announced?" And I'm like, boy, oh boy, what is it I can tell you, right? But it's really interesting to see, at least with One Piece, because of how massive the IP had gotten. It was at least predictable that it had a high chance of being very popular, right? Like, even beyond like the people that are big fanboys of One Piece, like myself, or like a friend of the channel, John Bolt, even. But Gundam has a long history. It's been around for a really long time, and its fan base is very dedicated. But it's really hard to tell whether there's a lot of overlap between fans of Gundam and fans of card games. So that's one thing that I'm not sure of. But we'll just have to see. I mean, at the very least, I'm very excited. I can't wait for them to start doing reveals. We don't know when it's going to happen. It likely won't start since the set doesn't release until July. I believe starter decks are July 11th, and then the main set is July 25th. I don't believe that they'll start reveals until around April. So we have a while to wait, but...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we'll have to see. I'm just so excited. Like, again, Gundam is an IP that I quite literally grew up with. And for me personally, I'm a little bit biased because, just this might get a bit stereotypical, but just being like an Asian American kid growing up with like anime and like a lot of like sci-fi and robot stuff was something I was very into, especially since for me personally, You know, like a solid chunk of my childhood was spent in Hong Kong. You know, a lot of my cousins were into Gundam because it was just a very popular thing,
Right.
among kids in Asia, right? So like I quite literally grew up with it, and then, you know, of course, me being in the card game sphere, growing up with Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff, and so this is like, yeah,
Just like right up your
this just
alley.
goes hand in hand for me.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm curious is that, like, I wonder how, what's the word? I wonder how significant Gundam is to, like, other kids in the West, like around our age group. So like, how did you get introduced?
So
to it?
funny enough, I don't know if this is like typical to just like guys in general, but like mechs are cool.
Yeah,
So it's like I grew up seeing Gundam. I wasn't really in the sphere growing up because it was like not really on like Toonami when I was watching it. Growing up, I'd like wake up to like Inuyasha or Bleach or something like that as a kid. But
Yeah.
I'd always see Gundam and see like this stuff, but I never knew where to get a kit or like how to put it together. And then, funny enough, one of my Asian American friends, Michael Chen, I was visiting him once, and he had just an entire wall of unbuilt Gundam kits. I'm just sitting there and I'm like, dude, this is so wicked. You have some built kits, you have some unbuilt kits. These are all great. I love mechs. This is wicked. Where do I get one of these? He's like, oh, you want to build one? And I'm like, yeah, just let me know where I could get one. He just hands me a high-grade Strike Gundam, hands me a pair of God Hands, and he's like, these are yours. Go forth and do great things. And I took it home. I sat down for like 2 hours because it was my first kit. I started building it, and then I just fell in love. And now I just have a backlog myself. Not an entire wall of backlog, but quite a number of kits. So
yeah, I'm also on a pretty heavy backlog, especially now that I bought like some more.
yeah, agreed.
Of some more Gundam base kits. Yeah,
But it's like it's so personal. There's so much personality that you get to put into this stuff, and like you never think about it until you start like getting into the nitty and gritty of it. Like you have like small like ink pens for like lining the panels to like make them pop. Like I was saying with the altars, that's a very common thing in like the model building. You have spray paint so that you can like paint the kit to change the colors on it to like make it like truly feel like it's your own Gundam. Like this is your mech. And it's like that's what like dragged me into it. It's like, yeah, I want my own mech. It's cool. It's like what guy doesn't want like that to live that fantasy, right?
Yeah, but so that's the thing too, because like I had this discussion with funny enough with Chris from Small Hat Crew. Like we were talking about it the other day of like how well we think this Gundam card game would do in comparison to One Piece. I still am skeptical that it would be as big as the One Piece card game. And just in the general anime community, there's always that consistent thing I hear where people are like, I don't really like mecha anime or like Gundam in particular. They're not really into the whole like sci-fi space opera genre, which is understandable.
I think that's to each their own type of deal.
It's kind of niche. Yeah, I mean, to each their own. Like, I understand it because it's like it is kind of a niche thing, and a lot of Gundam's themes, especially for a lot of the series, like the original Gundam series, most of the Universal Centuries, even ones that are like a little bit less action-packed, like Gundam Seed, they feel a little bit Star Trek-y. Like I said, the space opera genre. It's not everyone's cup of tea.
It's not
and I
really.
understand
I
that.
guess the best way to describe it, it's not really like a battle shonen. Like it's not really targeted towards like a teenage audience or like a lot of people can get behind My Hero because it's like very accessible. Like there's not a lot of like very thought-provoking themes, right? But like for the most part, with a few exceptions, like G Gundam. With the exception of G
Build
Gundam
Fighters.
or Build Fighters, a lot of the Gundam franchises are like very thought-provoking and deep. They like ask the questions you don't really want to be asked. Like at the end of the day, Iron-Blooded Orphans deals with like child labor and a lot of issues that come from it, right? But it's like
it's like things that like it's really cool though, because it's like things that kind of reflect a lot of like geopolitical issues.
Exactly. Like it gets you thinking about the world you're in, which attracts a lot of adults like us. But to like the younger generation, it's like I just want to watch the big robots beat each other up.
Yeah.
Which is
I mean,
like
I'll link it down in the description below along with the other ones I mentioned, but like there's a very excellent like 40-minute video of this dude explaining why you should watch Gundam, and he makes like this excellent analogy between the original Gundam series, like the politics surrounding it and how it like very heavily parallels Brexit. It's like it's so hilarious, but it actually makes a lot of sense. But you like, yeah, with that being said, it's just like I understand like for a lot of people that even are into anime, they don't really like they don't really mess with that kind of stuff, which was why I kind of agreed that it won't explode like One Piece as far as you know, like the player attendance, maybe even tournaments and whatnot. I still think there will be a solid scene. I would wager that it will do better than Fusion World.
not a very tall bar you're setting there.
Yeah, it's not, but like Fusion World is technically a successful card game, and like I'm sorry, Fusion World players, like I say technically, but like for a lot of places, even locally, it's just like the attendance is like nowhere near One Piece or even Digimon's.
I'm gonna venture out and say this. I think it's going to do better than Digimon. I think there's more. I think that Gundam overall is more popular than Digimon since it branches across so many different Gundam IPs. I think it has more potential depending on how Bandai handles it. I don't think it'll be as popular as One Piece because like the sheer difference in size of the IPs is like One Piece can carry itself pretty much off the IP and just like the way Bandai does prizing alone. I think without a currently ongoing Gundam series to like drag people into the like the card game, I think Gundam will do better than Digimon, but worse than One Piece in terms of Bandai card games currently.
Ooh, that's a
hot take.
To me that's a bit of a bold claim. Do you think a serial number RX-78 would sell for higher than a serial number Omnimon?
I think that Gundam fans are willing to spend more money than Digimon fans.
I'll give you that. I will give you that, because like by nature of being a Gundam fan, especially if you're actually like building the model kits and stuff, you are actually spending more money on the franchise than you are if you're a Gundam.
Like the thing is, for most
That's
Gundam model kits, because like the thing is, model kits aren't very cheap, to be honest. Yeah. Like it's not very cheap. No hobby is cheap. Well, most hobbies aren't cheap. That's why they're hobbies. But model kits are like 2 master grade, which is like the upper middle class of model kits, are like $150 for the 2 usually. Like on the cheap end, it's like $100 for the 2, but it's like you could get most of a Digimon deck for like $100.
That is fair. I will say is that again, like Gunpla and Gundam as a show, I guess they're technically different hobbies. Like you can be, you know, you can be into the shows and then you can be into Gunpla as in like building the classic models and stuff. Obviously, like there's very, very, very heavy overlap between the two interests. Which I would say, I guess, being a Gundam fan is technically more expensive on average than being a Digimon fan. Like if you're just like straight up consuming Digimon content outside of, and all this I'm saying outside of any card game. because I'm just trying to think like what you would realistically do as a Digimon fan. Like, I guess primarily the video games, right?
Right, but those only release so often, right? It's like,
Yeah.
like it's the thing with the model kit is if you're doing a straight assembly, which is the builder term for like nothing but like cutting out the parts and putting it together. Like $100 for 2 kits is like on the cheap end because like technically you still have to pay for paint, you have to pay for those like liners to like panel the Gundam out, you have to pay for like masking tape.
You don't have to, but you can. Like, people will pay for that stuff.
Right,
yeah.
but it's like if you want to like truly customize it and personalize it, people will like pay for all these additional things. Like it'll add up.
Yeah.
And like Frank, like the paint, you can like use it on other kits. It's not like you're going to use an entire can of paint on like one kit. But it's like if you don't have the right color, you have to get a new one and stuff like that, right? Like it's just like stuff that keeps adding up to your cost. That's mostly why I think that a Gundam player would likely spend more on a serial numbered collector piece than a Digimon player would. Because they're already used to like paying a premium for their hobby.
Okay. I can vibe with that. I would agree that I think as a market, now again, whether you like the patterns or the economy of the secondary market behind card games or not, I think Gundam has the potential to do better than Digimon, sales wise. And as far as like, you know, single selling a TC player and all that, I think Gundam cards do have the capacity to like to hold value, because it's collectible. Like even then, like other failed Gundam card games, or just like those I remember Lloyd got us like those Japanese ones, like the arcade Gundam cards. Like people collect those too, and they're really cool. I could definitely see that. Yeah.
But like my biggest thing is just that the mechanics of the game lend itself very well to not being unbalanced currently from what we have access to. Because that was, again, I'm not saying this to like rag on a specific group of players, but like it was an issue that people faced in Dragon Ball Masters, and it's like an issue that like resurfaced again in Fusion World, where everything having haste just like led to things being like very unbalanced, like very, very quickly. And currently with the cards we have access to in Gundam, the mechanics of the game seem to show that things are like fairly well balanced, which is a good thing.
You know, you know, another thing that I really like about Gundam's mechanics, is that damage sticks forever on a unit, just like Shadowverse or Hearthstone, where a mobile suit will remember the damage it has taken for as long as it's on the board.
I agree. We never talked about like damage comparison, which I think that's a good point, because it's like, again, I very much am a fan of the mechanics of One Piece. That's why it's the main game we play, or at least I play, and Colin currently plays. Yeah. But the fact that tying a character is enough to warrant counter is very lenient, I guess is the best way to put it. Because in a lot of other games, like for example Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic, or Shadowverse or Hearthstone, when things do combat, they compare their stats, and if it's a tie, they're both gone. Right? Like, obviously the mechanics of One Piece don't lend themselves to that type of style, which is why, like, the way that it is works for One Piece. But I am very much a fan of Gundam, since it, like, lets you be very forward-thinking in your turns. Like, oh, if I use this turn to deal 4 damage to Colin's 7 health unit, next turn I have this card that just does 3 damage to it, so I won't have to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, it's like, because that was my issue with both Digimon and One Piece, is that because of the way combat works, if you just have like this giant big dumb idiot that he or she or they is just the thing that takes over the board. Like, you've always seen this throughout One Piece's history, right? Playing a vanilla Thatch out of the Whitebeard deck, just like the big ass six mana 8K guy that is just like runs over everything, or Big Mom being a 12K, or Shanks now and Blackbeard now.
Even like Sakazuki,
Moria.
like 05 Sakazuki format, just dropping 10 cost Kaido was like very strong because it's very hard to remove a 10-12
like
in
Moria,
combat.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like having a big dumb idiot that just like beats everything in combat, and like it's close to impossible to run over just because of what it is, and it takes like so much resources and tempo to get rid of the big dumb idiot. Whereas in Gundam, it's like, yeah, your opponent might drop like the super big wing Gundam. They attach like their pilot on, so it has like it becomes like 7 power, 7 health. But if you have like a board full of weenies, you can still like kind of gang up and dogpile the big guy, which I kind of like. It's kind of like Magic too, where like you have that ability to like multi-block against a big dumb idiot. So like, yeah, obviously you're trading like a lot of resources still, but at least you have a way of dealing with.
Right, you can get
like,
out of a
guys.
bad situation technically.
Yeah.
Well, it's like good because it lends itself, like I was saying, to the mechanics. Like if you just don't see if I don't see my boss monster, but Colin saw his boss monster, at least maybe I was able to go wide early, so I can like interact with his boss monster by just like sending my weenies at it. Like it doesn't feel good to trade a bunch of my resources, but if it stops me from losing the game, like it is what it is. Like I have an answer. I don't just.
Yeah.
It's not like in the BY mirror, if Colin sees 3 Morias and I see 0, like the game's over. He's
right,
up like 6 cards in advantage to my, like I've lost 6 cards every turn, or like 2 cards
That's
every
exactly
turn.
it. It's like a lot of One Piece matchups, like especially like black mirror matches, Sakazuki versus Sakazuki, Lucci versus Lucci, BY versus BY, even Shanks mirror matches, or like those decks compared against each other. Sometimes it just came down to a counting contest of like who drew more big guys, you know.
Exactly.
Even Whitebeard in the past too, it's just whoever drew more of their super rare big guys. Whereas like Gundam, is like, you know, you can build your deck in such a way to like kind of set up for those situations where you have at least maybe like 2 medium-sized bodies that can go up against their one big guy, and like at least so far the big LRs don't seem to like just instantly take over the board through their card effects or through their stats. So that's what I really like about it so far.
Yeah, none of the LRs that we've like landed on the table have just like won us the match on the spot, from what we can tell. Like, of course, there's only currently 3 LRs in the game, so like none of them seem insanely overbearing.
Yeah, and obviously we'll have to see in set 1 what other things they print, if there's anything like more over the top, which I fully expect there to be, but just like that natural game mechanic of how damage always sticks, I think lends itself to more counterplay and more interesting decision making. Deck building too, I'm quite excited about, in the sense that like it's just, you just get to straight up mix 2 colors at a time.
Yeah, it's very
So
reminiscent of Lorcana.
Yeah.
If you've ever played that game, it's I've dabbled in it. I'm not like super deep on it, but as an employee of a card store, I need to keep up with a lot of the trends. And it very much, like, you can play up to 2 colors, but there's like no demerit to playing 2 colors because your resources count as any color when you're using them. So it's just, no matter what color you're playing, even if you just like say you want to play green for like ramping and playing big idiots, there's no reason for you not to splash like a few draw spells. Like, even if that's the only blue card you want to play or only white card you want to play is a draw spells, there's like no punishment to doing it, which is very nice.
Yeah, like, I hope they design the cards in such a way where you're not just cookie cuttered into a lot of specific archetypes. Like, you know, so far so far in the beta kits, at the very least, they've been encouraging you to mix, like
Different franchises.
not just not just colors, but even different franchises. Like mix Wing with Witch for Mercury, or mix things from between Seed, Witch for Mercury, and original Gundam series, or like with Unicorn. So
Right.
I hope that they keep card design like that open ended, so you have like a lot of cool different deck building combinations.
Right, like I would like it if they make it so that you can just like play like a good stuff pile more so than like
Yeah.
a bunch of like archetypal, like, because again, like currently there is no search power, there's very limited draw power, like there's nothing that just like, there is no Nami or anything that like checks your top 5 for a wing type card
Yeah.
or something, right?
I kind of hope they avoid that. I don't know if that's a hot take, but I kind of hope they avoid that, because that was something that it was like a very slight qualm I had with One Piece, where between your leader and just like the way they design cards, you almost kind of pigeonholed into specific archetypes. Like, it's like the moment they printed the Zorojuro and the One Drop Law out of OP9. So like for Purple Luffy, you're just like pigeonholed into playing a Straw Hat deck now, or Blackbeard playing basically like mono Blackbeard cards, which is like cool, like you're on theme of like the characters in the show, but I like a little bit more variety. And like Digimon kind of had that for a while, until kind of more recent sets where I feel like a lot of things were also kind of pigeonholed, like the War Greymon decks.
I think like Shanks is a
like,
good
Fenrir
example of
Lugamon.
like what I want from Gundam, where it's like
Like a good
it's
stuff
just
deck.
like a pile of good red cards for the most part.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the lists that are doing well do play the Searcher Uta, but it's like pretty much just with the intention of finding your top end. Like they still play like the tech cards, like the Red Hawks. They still play Rayleighs. They play Dragons. Some of them still play the 7-cost Edward Newgates. Just different ways to like just like get as much value as you physically can, right?
Yeah, like that's what I'm kind of hoping for out of Gundam, is that just like maybe more draw power to like consistently see your pieces, but not necessarily searchers to pigeonhole yourself into specific
Archetypes. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I would like that. Oh, there you go, a little Reggie cam. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm very excited for the game. Hopefully, they don't. Hopefully, a lot of the qualms and again, for all the qualms and all the ranting I was doing like earlier on, I'm still very, very pleased for the most part with the like game design and the card design. Nothing feels very overbearing. All 3 of the colors feel like very even for the most part. Like there are benefits and demerits to playing all of them. Like Wild Blue is a very like resource heavy, or like resource generation heavy color. It still has the drawback of having like very high energy costs, even beyond like a level cost. Like while Show of Resolve is a very strong card that draws 2 cards, it costs 3 resources and it's played at level 4.
Yeah.
So it's like
that's like the majority of your turn.
if you play it as soon as you can, you have like one resource left.
Yeah.
You can like maybe play a weenie, right?
Yeah,
Like you can't do anything crazy on that turn. And then like I said, while green has like ramp into Bink stuff, because you have to use the ramp card and then like use your pilot and your resources, you'll burn through resources very, very quickly. And without stuff to like gas back up, you'll just like kind of fall over if your opponent like has an answer to it. And then white, while it like digs very deep and like has a lot of like interaction with its command cards, it doesn't really like have any like very aggressively statted units. Like it's a lot more of a defensive archetype. It just like tries to interact more than anything. Like it's very reactive instead of proactive, unlike the other 2 colors, pretty much.
yeah.
So
Right. With that being said, guys, do you have anything else to add at this point? I think we're mostly good.
yeah, I think I've gotten everything I want to say about Gundam off my chest.
Yeah. As far as what we're gonna do with Gundam on the channel, we will be having more and more content. I'm just very, very excited for this game, especially too. Oh, there's one more thing I forgot to mention. Especially too, that Gundam is a unified release worldwide, so it's different from One Piece, where
It comes
the Asian
over
territories
Seoul.
have the cards the Asian territories have the cards like way before us, and then by the time we get it in the West, everything's been already figured out, like, or at least 90% of the format's already been figured out and whatnot. So much openness. It's like there's the format feels like it's wide open. Everyone has a chance to figure something out.
Like, there's no
globally.
telling, like, bar certain, like, things that just, like, stand out, like, the second you read them, like, everything really has a chance, right? Like,
Yeah, it feels like everything's fair game, which I'm very, very excited about. And honestly, like, content-wise, I'm extremely excited about. Because honestly, it's like, with One Piece, it's, like, kind of hard to make a lot of reveals and strategy content when, like, quite frankly, it's like, just look at what the Japanese players are doing, or all the other, like, Singaporean, Malaysian, Indonesian, Thai, all the other Asian territories.
Far Korea.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's not to say that we're gonna stop doing One Piece content. We very much will be. I've actually been playing more One Piece lately.
Funny enough,
ever since Card Fest.
we both, like, Card Fest lit a fire under me, guys. I'm gonna be honest. I want to win. I want to get a first place. Dallas One Piece Day. We both got into events on both days. We're ready. I don't think I've been playing this much One Piece since, like, honestly, probably, like, set 2. Like, the game is just really fun right now. So
so we're very, very excited for One Piece Day in March. Hope to see you all there in Dallas during that month. So yeah, there definitely will be more One Piece content. Don't worry, we'll still be doing that. Honestly, I'm actually working on Digimon content as well, with another one of our buddies, Damaris. So hopefully that turns out well. Hopefully you guys like that too. We're honestly just gonna try all the Bandai games at this point. We're basically becoming a Bandai channel.
I mean, we've tried all of them, but
yeah. And then last but not least, Gundam. Let us know too if you want us to show you maybe some deck builds or more gameplay with the beta stuff. Especially when Set 1 rolls around, we'll definitely be doing much more content for Gundam at that point as well. So be on the lookout for that. But with that being said, guys, again, this has been the It Connects podcast. Thank you so much for being here with us if you made it to the end. Like typical YouTuber stuff, remember to like and subscribe.
Like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell so you can get notified whenever we upload. I know it's been a minute, but they're going to start rolling out for you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks,
all right,
Nolan.
well, with that being said, guys, see you in the next one.
See ya.